Hello my lovely jubblies, I'm fantasims and welcome to the madness that is my Sims 4 world, where I love to turn objects into unique fantasy and sci-fi creations without custom content. I keep my game vanilla, baby. Today I'll show you how I made these fantasy castle towers. Okay, let's get right into it. If you're not familiar with me and how I build, I love to use a mod called Tool Mod to rotate objects beyond what the game normally lets you, but cool thing is, you don't have to have the mod installed to download my creations, woot woot! So I'll put a link to the mod in the description below so you can check it out too. The other day I was sorting through objects made of rock and stone and started organizing them based on what colors went together for future builds, and I came across the wishing well from I think Romantic Garden stuff pack, and I loved the rounded brick base. It's perfect for castle towers, but it comes with the big wooden awning. I wish they came as separate pieces as well. But anyway, almost all the swatches of the well have ivy all over them, but there are two without, so I used one of them and I tried rotating the well upside down by 180 degrees to see if I could elongate that brick part of the well into a tower. Then I needed to find a way to cover the upside down wood awning, but this tan color of brick is hard to match swatches to, so I thought I'd try to blend the tan brown color with some grey to make it more versatile. The style was inspired by these graphic design images of the game Heroes of the Storm. I just love how chunky and a bit cartoony the castles look, because I thought that might be an easier style to pull off with the Sims 4 cartoony style. The only issue I found was that the wishing well is not perfectly centered, so I had to use the Alt key to try and center it myself for the upward and upside down pieces. The stone bench from Journey to Batuu is also perfect for the base of the tower because it flares out a little and has these cool parts that stick out with rune looking designs on it. I then added a fountain as part of the base too, because the stone detail adds a nice trim, and even though it is not quite as brown as the wishing well bricks, it does have that warm tone to it which helps balance out the colors of tan and grey to make it seem more like one cohesive object. I also used the debug base game rounded grass object because if you elevate it up a bit, it has a nice stone wall around it. Then I just used Tool Mod to tweak the elevation and sizing of the objects. For a while I used the cauldrons from Realm of Magic, but I ended up deleting those because it was starting to look too mismatched. I love the metal embellishments on these Heroes of the Storm castle images and tried to recreate that style by sizing up the Realm of Magic crystal lights because they have a really cool metal trim that suits a medieval castle style. I had to lower it into the ground a little to hide the green grass, and because I lowered it, it meant that any changes I made to the walls or flooring deleted those objects, because there's a glitch in the game at the moment that deletes most objects that are elevated or lowered into the ground, even objects you elevate without Tool Mod. So TwistedMexi, being the incredible modder that he is, put in a special feature in his expandable build by mod where you type in BB Protect into the cheat menu that you access by pressing Ctrl-Shift-C at the same time, and then anything you adjust after using that cheat won't delete items, so I end up using that feature throughout making this tower. As you just saw, I also rotated the debug concrete sewage pipe from Eco Lifestyle on its side and resized it to fill out the base of the column and give it more girth, more density. And then I tried to figure out how I could decorate around those curves of the tower. I kept scrapping my ideas because I just didn't like how they looked, so I moved on to focus on the upper portion of the tower to give myself time to think up some new ideas. I also used the rounded island living coffee table as a wooden trim under the wishing well part of the tower just to tie in some of the darker browns of the awning part. When you're working with a lot of different color swatches, it helps to try and add elements of those colors throughout the top to the bottom of the object or build so that it looks like it flows together, otherwise it looks too mismatched. Now, while you see me tweaking this tower and adding details, I just want to have a little heart-to-heart with you guys to let you know where I'm at in life at the moment. Some of you know this about me, but most of you probably do not. I am bedridden at the moment. I have been for about 5 years, and I hate sitting still. I love to build in real life with wood and metal and create art and do DIY projects, and I don't like sitting or laying around. And I went from working like 80 hours a week and doing my master's degree to my immune system crashing, partly because I was pushing myself so hard, and also because I've always had health issues my whole life. Well, anyway, I can get up for short periods of time, but I get so dizzy and weak I have to spend most of my days laying down. Thankfully, my computer is attached to the wall next to my bed, so I get to build Sims in comfort. Woohoo! So I have ME, which is short for, and I'm going to try and pronounce this but fail, myalgic encephalomyelitis. also known as chronic fatigue syndrome, and I have fibromyalgia, arthritis, ADD, inflammatory bowel disease, insomnia, anemia, the list goes on. So chronic and fibromyalgia fatigue is more than just feeling tired. It's an issue with every single cell in your body. The cell's mitochondria, which is the part of your cells that provide the energy for them to function, they don't work properly. They can't convert oxygen or glucose into energy, so every cell in your body struggles, which means moving your muscles is hard, your organs feel sluggish, you're constantly dizzy, and you can't think clearly, etc. So some days I have to spend the whole day just telling myself to breathe in and out because I just won't breathe for long periods of time because muscles and organs can struggle to respond to brain signals. And recently, they found people with these conditions seem to have inflammation in the brain. Anyway, I'm not saying this for sympathy at all. I don't like pity parties. I just like to share information because it can be helpful and encouraging for others. I've come to discover on Twitter how many of you fellow simmers also have the same illnesses I have. Although I'm so sorry anyone else has to go through these illnesses, it is great to know that we're not alone. So this means I have tons of content waiting to be turned into videos. I literally have over 48 different projects with speed build footage, but I can only record voiceovers on certain days because most days I slur my speech and stutter a lot, which I suppose could be quite entertaining. I actually sometimes speed my voice with software to be 15 to 20% faster than I'm actually speaking, and I have to write down notes because my mind goes blank so much. So for this video, I'm not speeding up my voice, but I am using notes so I don't get lost. So I make sure I sound a lot more lively in my videos, but in reality, I'm more like a mumbling zombie. And my goal isn't to be fake, but to keep my videos as short as I can and interesting enough to keep watching. It just requires a lot more editing. Anyway, I'm learning how to make YouTube work for me because I love sharing my builds with you guys. I see how other simmers do their YouTube channels with videos like build challenges, speed builds, etc. And I want to do some of those too, but I think going forward my videos are just going to have to be based on whatever my body and brain can handle in that moment. And now that it's fall and winter in Michigan, it is so gloomy and cold that I'm in a lot of pain and I'm extra exhausted, so I'm having a harder time doing full-on builds. So for example, if I only have the energy to build the outside of a build but not furnish it, then I'll do that. Some of my builds I will do the interior, but I'm giving myself permission to do whatever I feel like doing. And I'm learning to roll with the punches and punch my rolls. So this way I'll have a lot more videos to post. I asked you guys on Twitter if you would mind me sharing videos of builds that I've not fully completed, like not doing the interior, and the majority of you voted that you're fine with it. And ultimately, even if you weren't, I have to do what my body and brain lets me and what keeps the game fun for me, because even the smallest amount of stress can cause people with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia to crash hard, and when you crash, it's like you have the flu for days or weeks. Even simple stuff like doing a couple loads of laundry can make you feel really ill for days. So I might build an object in one video, the exterior of a build in another, a room in another, a mini tutorial, whatever I feel like doing each week. And I'm sharing this with you because I'm an open book, and I'm not embarrassed at all about sharing my weaknesses and struggles with you guys, because I know that it can be very encouraging for those of you who are facing the same kinds of struggles. It's okay that we don't have it all together. It's okay that our social media content is not perfect. What makes the Sims community so awesome is that we can be ourselves and share our creativity whatever way we can to inspire and encourage each other, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it with you guys. And even though this season of extreme illness is hard to cope with, I'm learning so much about letting go of my perfectionistic mentality, embracing my limitations, and learning new ways to be creative. It's a horrible season in some ways, but very liberating in others, and I'm growing in a way that I probably wouldn't if I didn't face it. I know, this tower build is getting deep. Okay, so let's catch up. The heroes of the Storm Castle towers have these rune stones tilted at the base, and I wanted to create something similar, so I used the stone sundials from Get Together and tilted them, then used one of the Debug Realm of Magic books because they look like runes and have a nice ornate gold trim. I decided to go with blue to add a bit of color, especially since I'm trying to experiment more with using bright colors, which I'm not very confident with. Then the other day I came across the Get Famous fancy bookshelves in this bright blue swatch, and I just love the look of it, particularly the back, because it has a faux leather texture and an ombre effect type of shading around the edges, which just really makes that blue pop and makes it look less plasticky like some of the other brightly colored objects in the game. Plus, it has this really cool metal trim to it. Then I just added some gold-based game mirrors and that wooden post thing that sticks out the wall. I can never remember what it's called. And the upside down Realm of Magic wall sconce light because the gold design tied in perfectly to the trim. I didn't love the white part of the light because it adds another color that I wasn't planning on using, but I loved the gold part so much I just stuck with it. I'm sure I could have have used a rounded stone or blue object to hide that part, but I was too tired to look. Now, the tilted sundials with the rune decoration had an awkward cut-off point to the edge of it, so to help it flow into the ground better, I used the rounded base game awning and then debug vampire stone objects to add shape. I really like how the shape turned out, but it meant that the base of my tower was getting wider and wider and quite massive, but I liked it too much to get rid of it, so you can always delete the parts that stick out too far and keep the base of the tower small enough to use several of them around a castle. If you see me zooming in and out a lot, it's because objects can do weird things when you zoom in and out. Sometimes they disappear or the shape changes slightly, and I noticed that when zooming out the books disappeared, so I duplicated the books with T.O.O.L mod and made a smaller version that sticks up further so that it can still be seen from a distance. Also, you might have noticed me elevating the debug metal sewer caps that look like a metal rug. It's a trick I discovered to help add shading to builds, and I'm thinking of making a quick tips tutorial about it, so I won't divulge any more details here. Then as a finishing touch to the base of the tower, I just found objects like sized up mirrors to add contrasting edges to the stone, and the stone door frame to add more dimension around the back of the Get Famous bookcase. Now for the final part of the tower, I wanted to add some roofing to tie into the awnings on top of the tower. I was tired, so I chose the Journey to Batu bookcase because it already curved and I only had to rotate them into a circle shape a few times with the comma and period key. I'm sure I could have found a better object because the color swatch didn't really match, but I was satisfied enough with this one. Then because my brain was so fried, I just kept rotating the roof without keeping track of what I was doing until it kind of looked how I wanted. Usually I do the math in my head or I write it down because I always forget what I've literally just done a second ago, but I couldn't be bothered, so I just kept twisting and hoped for the best. I fiddled with trying to make a second level to the roof as well, but it didn't look good, so I deleted that. Most of my buildings is trial and error, just go with the flow. I collect objects I think might look good, I mess around with them, try ideas out, delete most of them, and then finally it takes shape. I do know that I made copies of the room and rotated the whole thing by 22.5 degrees for one of them and minus 22.5 degrees for the other room, because when you use the comma and period keys in build mode to rotate an object, it does it in 45-degree increments, so to fit an object between 45-degree rotations, it is 22.5 degrees. For this object, it ended up making more of a star-like shape rather than it being perfectly rounded, but who cares, it's close enough, and the uneven shape just adds to a medieval style, right? I used a base game coffee table as the base for the roof because I thought the crisscross wood design at the side was perfect for medieval, and I used one of my favourite objects, the ship wheel from Get Famous, to add a bit more detail to the roof and try to tie in the darker tan brown colour of the wishing well bricks. Then to cap off the top white bits that I didn't like, I turned one of the Journey to Batu planters upside down because I liked the shape, added a bronze roof decoration from Strangerville, and used another Realm of Magic gold crystal light to trim the transition between the plant pot into the wood part of the roof. Then the only thing left to do was place the roof part on top of the tower and adjust all the pieces down. At first I left the roof up high, but the tower ended up looking too skinny and tall, so I lowered it over the wishing well awnings. Now this can be used as a decorative tower around your castle, but because it's so huge and takes up space, you can use it as a roof on top of a functional room as well, like I have here in this build I was messing around with this week. If you like those blue roof decorations I made in this image, stay tuned for my next short video where I'll show you the quick speed build of me making it. I kind of wish I made this tower smaller, but I couldn't remember how I scaled each of the objects I used, and it would have taken me a long time to rearrange everything and resize everything, so I just left it a bit massive, but you can try to make it smaller if you like. Also, really important tip, make sure to choose all your wall and foundation heights before placing this so that the objects don't move around when you shift things. Hopefully this video has given you some fun ideas for what you can do to build your own castle towers. I will post this tower to my gallery. Now to find me in the gallery you can search for fantasims, which is what it should be, but the gallery hates me and reverts me back to my old name, Simspiration84. It's like inspiration but with an E because apparently I can't spell. Anyway, thanks for tuning into my nonsense and having fun with me today. I'm going to be focusing on making more objects like these until I feel well enough to dig into big builds, so comment below if there are any decorations you'd like to see me build. If you like this video, be sure to give it an encouraging thumbs up, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about fresh content. Thank you for watching, you gorgeous, wonderful human beings. Until we meet again, love ya!